Good, glorious morning, and welcome to Waking Wellness. We woke up nice and early, about 3:34. We've been charged up since we got up, and after hitting a little bit of Tibetan rites, actually during it, I was getting the ideas for this episode. So we had to come to you guys with another one. And this episode is about beginning anew. This is about creating something new, even if it has already been created. You may be working on yourself and creating yourself anew. And that's what this episode is all about. So let's dive in. I talked about this briefly in a past episode, and as well as my book, Hacked. And we talk about the importance of understanding the process and the cycles that happen when we do begin anew, or when we do plant those seeds. A lot of times we think, okay, I just started this cleaning business, and as soon as I did great on this one job, and as soon as everybody sees this one post about this job, then everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to hire him. And it doesn't necessarily happen that way. Sorry. Even in situations where I got Queen Destiny, Princess Nokia on my mind right now as I'm looking at my goal list and my visual board. So she's on my mind. Even like how she said when she dropped her music and then, it hit MySpace and it blew up and it hit like, or let's say like a Tyler, and it hits in that way that others may have not hit, or in a way that it grows almost that cult following, where it's so niche and unique, and people think, oh, okay, well, now you made it. No, it's just like enlightenment, where, when I had my awakening and I was like, oh my God, okay, I had a nirvana, like, aside from all the doubt and thinking like, okay, could this have happened to me at 22? Is this what they were talking about? All those doubts, put all that aside. The journey just begins there. As soon as she quote unquote blew up, or like a Tyler, as soon as that blow up track or album or a piece of art or work, whatever that is, occurs, the real work then begins. This is why they have both had successful careers after, because it wasn't like okay, I got my blow up album now, like I'm big and I'm famous. Like, no, it was like, okay, we did it. Now it's time to get in the lab. Now it's time to do more. It's time to go harder. It's time to make something better, or something that expresses on that same kind of level. And this is the kind of mindset that we need when we are thinking about beginning anew and creating anew, because again, it does not stop at the point of, oh, I've achieved, or I even surpassed what I had planned to achieve. One who always is striving to grow and is striving to be their best self, no matter the achievement, will always seek, and this is not from dissatisfaction, but this is from the desire to be the best self, to see how can I go to the next level. And that does not mean that they're not stopping to smell the roses and to actually embrace what is created and the love that they have put out, that expression that they have put out. But it means that one is seeking to, again, push the bounds of what they know as their limitation. And so when we think about beginning anew, when we think about starting something new and growing it, when we plant that seed, we need to keep in our mind that no matter where that destination takes us, we may think that we're trying to get to the end point, and because that's what the logical mind wants us to think, right? It's from point A to point B, because that's what the goal or the mission is within a logical mindset or framework. But when we add into that the divine feminine, into that straight line point A to point B, then we actually see that, first off, it may not just be a straight line, it may be a zigzag or whatever it is, but also that it goes past that point A, point B, and it actually and captures in the totality of it is something so much more. And that's why we also need to, when we are thinking about our goals, when we are thinking about starting something new, we need to get outside of a strictly logical mode of thinking. We need to get outside of that calculative mode of thinking that just says, okay, cause, effect, 1 plus 1, and we need to add in the meditative thinking. We need to add in that way of thinking that allows us to get outside of rigidity. And rigidity is not a bad thing here. It's just that is a very specific way of thinking, as is meditative. But meditative thinking allows us to go beyond traditional thinking, how we even think of thinking. It allows us to, as Einstein said, we cannot solve a problem if we remain on the same frequency that problem was created. And so I say that because logical thinking will go, well, there has to be some kind of solution within this form, within this set of, I'm going to just say vibration that we are currently sitting in, but that is not possible because it is that level of consciousness which created the quote unquote issue. It takes another or a higher level of consciousness to understand, to transcend that quote unquote issue, which is not even an issue. It's actually it's a problem with the way that we're thinking that even gave thought or arise to what we see as an issue. If and when we transcend that mode of thinking, that frequency of thinking, we can actually understand now we are outside of that, let's call it that point A to B, that straight line. And now we are in a whole nother sphere of thinking, a mode of being that says, wow, the only reason that was a problem is because I actually thought that way. But now that I exist outside of that very rigid, strict mode of thinking and way of being, I can see that wasn't even an issue. I can see how the mind gave construction and gave solidarity to that belief, that idea. But now that I've transcended it, I understand that it comes from me. That is only a seed that has come out of the ocean, or that infinite being or accessibility to that infiniteness, which is the all. I can understand now how, again, that is just one mode of, that is one aspect of that mode. Okay. And so when we start to believe, or when we start to think about creating something new, even if it is actually gardening and planting a tree, we need to understand the process so that we don't get ahead of ourselves or outside of ourselves in a negatively connotated way, in the sense of, if you expect the tree to be a tree a day after you planted that seed, you will be disappointed by expectations. We need to learn how to manage our expectations. I'm not saying not to have any, because that wouldn't be real. That is how we are, but that is how we are created. And that's how we also create solidarity within what we know as time, clock time. We expect to wake up at a certain time. We expect to go to work at a certain time. We expect to receive things at a certain time, because this is our perception of cycles, which are the real time, which is really eternity, beginning where it ends and starting at that new place. And so understanding how time actually works, getting outside of clock time aka learning how to remanage our expectations. This is why I go so deep and heavy into the importance of understanding time and banishing the conception of it, which we have created. Again, we have now given a rise to a new problem, which is trying to put the eternal and the now, which is eternal, into a finite pattern or a circle. Why do we even think that clocks are circular? Clocks aren't some line thing or like created like how my Vizio soundbar is looking right now, and it's just one line and it goes 1 to 12 across this horizontal line. No, clocks are circular, like I believe it's called Ouroboros, the Ouroboros is hard for me to say it, but like this snake that eats his own tail, because time actually begins where it ends and ends where it begins. 12 o'clock, the final hour, until it starts all the way over again. And this is again why I go so deep into cycles and the cyclic nature of our growth, of our understanding. Another way to depict this, I've talked about this, is the stairs. We go all the way to level 9 or the 9th stair to actually drop off and fall all the way back down, almost become babies again, having to learn how to crawl, then, stumble, and then walk, and then maybe run once we hit like the stair level 7, 7 and 9. But we fall back down to the next staircase, but the next staircase is going to be considered staircase 1 or staircase 2, staircase 3, until it does the same thing with the staircases, and now we're on 10. And I say that because we must understand that what these numbers are actually giving way to or depicting, when we get to 9, then we go back to 0. But for the first time, but for the second time, but for the third time. And so we're just getting used to cycles. That cycle or that pattern of going up that stairs and falling down again is no different than the wave in the water. That smaller wave, it looks different from that bigger wave that's in front of it. And then that keeps repeating. But in essence, they are the same, just differing in what we see as distance or space or height or power/intensity of that wave, but yet is actually a reflection of itself at a different place. And when we start to actually work with this knowledge and this understanding, we can now have an understanding of how things actually are going, like the sun rising and then setting. We need to understand these things because we need to understand how each place, how each time or setting within this cycle has its place. Each of those moments has a proper role in completing the cycle. So it's just important that the tree be a seed for as long as it needs to be a seed, as it is that when it is a tree. It's just important. And we can't skip that seed or the gestation period for an idea, because we want it to be full-fledged. How could it become full-fledged? It hasn't even been a seed yet. It hasn't even been watered to make it into just a little plant, and then to like a little bush. And then to that oak tree. We need to allow and understand that growth is important at every single stage. And it's just as important that we emphasize this, and we do at every stage give that tree, give that idea, give that version of ourself the same love recognition, whether it's the beginning or the ending or the middle, that same kind of love that we do at each of the other spots or points in time or unfolding, so that it can be. And that nurturing each of those stages are going to give it what it needs to keep completing the cycle. Even when it is a full-fledged tree, it still needs to be watered. It still needs to be loved and appreciated. That idea still needs to be pushed in. I know it's a full working machine. I know the company is going as hard as you wanted to, and you've already achieved what you quote unquote set out to do with it. But if it does not continue to be nurtured, watered, cared for, admired, loved, then it will eventually come down and break down. And this is going to happen no matter what. Because all things do rise, all things do fall. This is the ebb and flow of the world, of energy, of cycles. But it is necessary that we do those things so that it may be where it is meant to actually be in the universe, how it is meant to actually be, and giving off and expressing itself as it is meant to express itself. And so I hope that in this episode, we realize when we start something new, we must give it the proper time to develop. I hope that we understand and we integrate the understanding that nurturing each and every phase is just as important as coming up with the idea itself. I hope that we understand that all follows cycles. All follows law. And to work with the cycles is working with the law. And when we work with the law, these cycles and the energy that is, by law, will make sure that we are fruitful. It will make sure that that which we have set into motion will be successful. It will grow to where it is meant to grow, because by law, it is flourishing by law. And so that may seem very, very simple, but I hope that you really meditate on that and use this as a morning meditation about growth. Whether it's a habit that you want to build or break, whether it's a physical foundation that you want to build, whether this is an abstract foundation that you want to build, we need to work within the law. We need to understand the importance of cycles, and we need to go along with these so that they can, again, help what it is we have conceived and intend to grow. We must stay in alignment with these to make sure that they do so to their fullest potential. And nothing will be able to stop you if we do these by law. Understand the way of nature. Understand how things grow. Watch them. Really study them. Sit within yourself, and these things will become readily available to you. You'll be able to see them. You'll be able to feel them. And you'll be able to understand the pattern as you have grown. As you can feel as the universe has grown. Things that we take for granted and we don't always see with the normal eyes, but with the mind's eye, we can actually feel come into fruition. So, I hope that this episode has been enlightening for you. I hope it has given you some tips and some things to really think about, meditate on, so that we can, if you really meditate on these, they will remove your anxiety. They will remind you that all takes time. Therefore, why are you stressing out that the tree be a tree in a day when you know that that's not how it goes? It will remove your anxiety, your angst, and it will replace it with proper action, with aligned action. Instead of going, oh my gosh, I just don't know if my plants are. You will go, my baby just needs some water. Let me go get it some water. Or my garden may need some other gardeners. I got a big garden now. Or the farm is really producing. I need some other people that really know how to get this thing out the ground, how to get this thing the sunshine it needs, how to get this place, all of the things that it needs to get to where it goes. Those ideas, those thoughts do not form out of anxiety when we're sitting in our worst and doubting ourselves. Those energies spawn and come to us when we are still. When we're sitting there knowing ourselves as ourself and as Source knows us. You're going to know exactly who to go to. And if you don't, they're going to pop up and then let you know. You're going to know exactly what tools you need, just how much sun you need, just how much water you need, just how much love you need to be giving into it when you can sit with yourself, be honest with yourself, when you can know yourself, your ideas, your relationships, those buildings and foundations that you are just vividly seeing in your mind, they start to grow and build themselves. Because the thinking nature, my teacher, Dr. Green, told us that in German, I believe the word is donkey. I don't even want to mess it up too much, but it's like donking or something like that. But being thankful, the connection is thinking actually means being thankful. This is why I even went into care in the last episode about being distinguished versus separate and knowing the self as a distinguished self knows itself and sees itself and sees love within all and understands that it is unique through itself, but it is still of all, and all is of, or everything is of the all. Whereas the separate self sees things and holds them in contempt and judgment and sees the self as separate from all things and even in times better or just different, and does not see how it is actually part of the whole. And I say that because we're talking about modes of being. We're talking about mindsets, the way that we are, whether it's momentary or for a longer period of time. We're talking about the way that the mind is. And we're talking about that because thinking about something means you're being thankful for it because you're giving it care through the mind, through attention, through focus. Therefore, you are pouring in water into it. You are giving it the life force energy that it needs to continue the cycle. I don't know if y'all hearing me, but I think you need to be taking notes, and I pray you are. Being thankful means you're thinking about something, and thinking about something means you're being thankful for it because you're paying attention to it, and that is the only thing or energy or force that continues that cycle and gives it life. I hope you're really taking notes and breaking that down. And that's even the importance of etymology. That's why I love it so much, understanding where words come from. The root. How one thing gets to another. How is your idea going to grow into something else without the water, without the life force, without the energy? How is it getting the energy? It's your idea. You're thinking about it. You're pouring energy into it. Focus is giving attention to something. That's why we're paying attention. We're paying it forward. Therefore, that thing can keep going. And then it takes on a mind or a life of its own once it has so much energy that momentum is now pushing itself forward. Now you have other gardeners tending to your garden or your farm. Their energy is being poured into it. This is the importance of, and again, that's why I even talked about this in the last episode about distinguished versus separate. The distinguished soul versus the separated soul. Understanding channels, how channels work. How is this energy being poured into? It's going through a channel, through a funnel. And so I thought this was going to be a 10-minute episode. We're about to hit 30 minutes very soon. I think that if you really sit and meditate on what we hit on in this episode, you will easily see what I am talking about and the relevance that it has in growing whatever it is that you desire to grow. And I hope you take that and you use that to manifest in abundance your intentions. And understand, the more that we understand that and work with that as a understanding, because that's going to grow inside you. What I just gave you is information that is going to grow inside you and expand. And as you, again, meditate on that and grow and expand with it, you will become a better farmer. You will learn how to actually help your crop, your ideas grow. Everything about you will grow because you are going to be growing with that intention and with that knowledge, that information, that self-understanding, that self-knowledge. So I'm not going to hold you guys too much longer. I appreciate you. I really hope you guys love this episode and that it resonates with you guys. And if it does, you will leave comments, you will like, and you will tell me how this actually, how this has helped you grow and manifest your abundance how you have intended. I love you guys. This is Wake and Wellness. Go out and be your best self today. Make your vision happen. Bring it out into the world. Make it happen. I love you guys. Health is wealth.